correct citation in APA, and we'll talk about what that would look like. And then how do you create a reference page citation? And hopefully, my goal is for you all, if you all use the databases, everything is streamlined and it's so easy. If you go outside the databases, that's when it gets a little trickier. I will show you how to approach that as well. Okay. Okay. So the very first thing that when you're thinking about your philosophy, and I even write teaching philosophies I'm an instructional librarian. So my background is I taught middle and high school English for about 8 years. And during that time, I went to what we call library school, which is just your master's degree in library. I could have gone to be a school librarian, but I actually decided I wanted to be an academic librarian, which is in a college. And so with that, I don't have the certification to be a school librarian. I still hold my certification to teach. So as an academic librarian, my job at Walter State is teaching, though. So we call ourselves instructional librarians. So a philosophy, an educational philosophy, a teaching philosophy, that's really for anyone that does any sort of instruction. It's just a really good exercise that can help you kind of think about what you believe as a teacher and what you believe about your students. These change, though. Okay. And so like when I first started out, I wish I had my first philosophy, because I wrote a philosophy in one of my first education classes as well. And since then, I probably have gone through about 6 maybe. And this would be my 19th year in working with the state as a teacher or a librarian. So whatever you're doing when you write this philosophy, just think, hey, this can change. Okay. So when you go to think about your philosophy, some of the things that you're going to do is your why, right? That's kind of it's a little bit of a cliche term right now in education. Like they always ask, well, what's your why? But basically your role as a teacher or a mentor, how you view yourself. And then also your how, and these are the things that are inside your rubric a little bit as well. Like, what do you think about, for example, the classroom, or how do you view your students? What approaches to discipline? And also all in the context of the system you're going to be teaching in. And that is very different, because if you plan on teaching in a rural environment, let's say like in Hawkins County, that's very different than if you're teaching in Nashville Metro. Okay. And I taught both. I taught in Morristown, at Morristown East, and I also taught in an urban school in Knoxville. And that will change. I mean, maybe you want to teach in a private school. So it's all going to be within that context, because that does make a difference. Okay, so let's talk about some of these statements. And I value students. I think students should enjoy learning. The classroom environment is important. What's wrong with these statements if you are writing a philosophy? And y'all are going to have to just use the speaker. I can't see because I'm sharing my screen, okay?
Yeah,
so
make sure y'all are talking, please.
Just holler
just yell it out.
They're just like very vague statements. They don't have detail or anything to go with it.
Yeah. Anyone want to add anything to that?
They're mostly incomplete sentences.
Okay. Like their ideas, it's not like really going into detail, right? Like, I value students. I mean, can you argue against like, I value students, okay? If you're a teacher, do you say, I don't value students? Or I think students should enjoy learning. And the opposite is, I think students should hate learning. Like, these are just statements. Like you said, they're very vague, they're very general, they have no detail. You can't really, you couldn't argue against these. So you're wanting some of your statements in your philosophy to be specific enough that someone could say, hey, you might say, I think I value students because, and then maybe you say, I value students because they are someone's child, brother, sister, niece, nephew, like they inherently have value. Another person might say, I value students because, and they can word that in a whole different way or go about it as, I value students because they are the future of the world, right? So you both value students, but there's a very specific reason. So just being more specific. So, and here are some examples here. So taking a generality and adding a specific is helpful when you're writing these philosophies. When you're talking about like, oh, students enjoy learning. Students enjoy learning when I provide opportunities for, and whatever, however you want to word that. So look through those and just see how it changes from motivation is internal, right, to I provide reasons why each lesson is relevant or whatever. These are just some examples of being more specific with the statements that you make in your philosophy. Okay. Some of the things that you can notice in these is that they tend to be written more in present tense, as if you are. Don't write your philosophy as I will, like I will value students. No, act like you just got to embrace it. You are a teacher right now. So I value students. Okay. And so you kind of see how that approach makes it so much more emphatic and so much more powerful than I will, right? Because this is saying you're already doing that and this is what you think right now. Okay, any questions on this? I just kind of go over this before we move into some of the research part. Okay, so here's your turn. So let's say you're talking about discipline. And general vague would be discipline is important, right? That's not what we would want to write. So I want you to think about a basic statement. I'm going to ask for a couple people to share, please. How could you take this statement and add to kind of like, when I was teaching English and I would work with sentences, how can we expand it like a slinky, right? As a teacher philosophy statement. Okay, so go ahead, pull out either a scrap piece of paper like old school and a pen, or open up a Word document and just type one up. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, so as you all wrap up a statement, this doesn't have to be a long one. And again, this is just a little exercise to kind of get us into that mode of our philosophy and thinking about that. So, because when we go to do research, I want you all to have some actual things you can look up. Okay, how did this look for you all? Discipline is important. How did you change that to make it even more effective? And I'm going to put this on here. There we go.
For mine, I did discipline is important because it allows individuals to stay focused on goals, manage impulses, introduce time management, and enhance self-control.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Good details. Anyone else want to share?
I said discipline is important because the student can teach themselves self-discipline to get things such as homework done in the future or in time, sorry.
Yeah. Good. Last one. Anyone else want to give it a go?
I said that discipline is important as it plays a huge role in achieving goals, staying focused, and keeping consistency in what is expected in the classroom.
Excellent. So one of the reasons, y'all did such a great job with those. One of the reasons that when you are writing your philosophy, that you want to give those specifics is because you are going to be incorporating some research in there. I'm not sure whose mic isn't muted. Can you mute your mic? Thank you. But it is going to allow you to go and get research and pull it into that, pull it into your philosophy. If you say discipline's important, I mean, what type of research are you going to go find about that? But if you're talking about consistency, I think as one of you all said, then we can find information about discipline and consistency. Okay. So that's one of the reasons that it's important not to use just general and vague. And also, like, these are so much better than these. Okay. Okay. So talk about your assignment. This is the assignment that I hope it's still found in week 5. This was from last year's, but I assume it's still the same. So here is, if you haven't really looked at it, and that's okay if you haven't, here is an opportunity. Okay. Your philosophy should include a thesis. Okay. You should include details on classroom, organization, discipline, climate, and motivation. Okay. So you're going to think about those. I'll show you the rubric in a second. Your document should also include the theoretical basis you are using, right? So, which theories are you applying to these? And you have to reference 1 to 3 theorists and then specific concepts. So those are some of the things that you have to do. Okay. Now, here is one of the things that I'm here for. Okay. Is to think about your referenced sources. Okay. So you have 3 reference sources that are utilized. Each are properly cited with the APA format along with a reference page. So that's going to be under the conventions. You all have that. That rubric is in your eLearn. Okay. This is just the the A version. Okay. The best example. Okay. From the rubric. Okay. So definitely go through those and make sure that you're following all of these instructions. I will say this. I have found in the last semester and this semester that unfortunately students are not really reading the assignment expectations in a lot of the classes that I'm working with. And so make sure that you are looking through the rubric and looking at the assignment expectations. Make sure you have the right format. Make sure you have the appropriate, says a reference page. Make sure you make a reference page, okay? Because I've seen a lot of students are not doing that. And that's unfortunate because that's an easier way to get a better grade on this. Okay. So here's what we are going to talk about. Okay. So the very first thing you're going to do, so you're going to open up your Word document again or your real paper. And think about these things. It says your paper must include these 4 discussions on classroom organization, discipline, climate, and motivation. So I want you to look at those 4 points. And we're not going to do this whole thing today. You're going to choose one. Okay? Just one of those. Which one do you feel most comfortable talking about? It doesn't have to be in order. Start making some bullet points about what you envision. Okay? Okay, so at least one. If you get done in the next couple of minutes, you can go on to the next. You can choose another one. And here's an example. So I'm looking at motivation and I'm saying, okay, I think students should be internally motivated. I think it should be student-directed learning. Okay? So these are ideals as well. Okay, so if you're thinking, hey, my school gives me the curriculum to teach, so student-directed learning is not a possibility because I have this exact thing. It's scripted. That's not what we're talking about. I want you to think in general. What do you believe? Okay, not just based on a school you've worked in or you're currently, volunteering or doing your service learning in. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Choose one at least. Make bullet points about what you envision. Okay, and this is just a brainstorm so we can go and do the research. Okay. Okay, so it says 5 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna give you a full 5 minutes. We'll just take like 3 or 4. Just do as much as you can until I say stop. Okay? Any questions? Okay.
Miss Lewis, you're muted.
Okay, thank you for telling me. One time I taught 20 minutes and no one told me I was muted. So I really do appreciate that. Okay, I'll go back. We are right here. What I was saying is this to myself. I was saying it to myself, but now I'm going to say it to you all. And thank you for letting me know. So as you go through this part and you get into, we're just in the brainstorm part. As you get through this brainstorm and you start into the next phase, which is searching, like doing the actual research, you may end up adding some things, looking through the research, changing what you want to talk about in your philosophy. So that's okay. This is just a brainstorm. Now, the next part, which there we go. I'm back here. I'm gonna repeat myself, but repeat it to you all. So now that you've got your brainstorm, if you know a theory that it goes with, label it. Okay. If you don't, it's okay. You'll be doing that at a later time on your own as well. Okay. But since this is part of your assignment and it also can help you with some searching, you may go ahead and do this if you know it. Okay. So let's move to the next thing as to what we need to go into the database. What databases are we going to go into? Okay, so we do have a lot of different databases for educators. Okay, and you can kind of see ebook academic collection, I think, is probably the most helpful for this assignment. Okay. It's books, but there are so many books on education and how they're written, and they're so comprehensive that they are very helpful for your philosophy assignment. There are also articles in EDUC, and that's going to be application. If you want to talk about how to best do like classroom management, classroom discipline, there's going to be a lot of discussion on that in EDUC. Those are articles. Okay, so an article is going to be almost always a study that has been done in one situation. Okay, so maybe they have observed 23 classrooms in 3rd grade and monitored how many times a teacher told a student to stop a certain behavior, right? And then what were the results of that? Like, did the student listen? How did they tell them to stop? Did they say, no, thank you? Or did they say, hey, Johnny, stop that right now? Or whatever, right? So maybe those are going to be individual studies, okay? That EDUC is a great database for that. We also have professional development collection. There's some application in there, and they also include a little bit more theories, okay? And last, Google Scholar. Now, I know a lot of you all want to jump straight to Google Scholar. I would suggest that you try the other databases before going to Google Scholar. Most of the things that are going to be available in Google Scholar are going to be available in the databases and more, because a lot of times you run into Google Scholar and they're abstracts. You all cannot use an abstract. Y'all know what an abstract is? An abstract is literally only the summary of an article. So it may say, across 23 classrooms, teachers were observed in how they told students to stop certain behaviors. And this was the result. This is what we can take from it. It's like about 300 words. You cannot quote or cite abstracts in research, okay? So that's why you can get into some issues with Google Scholar, because the whole article is not there. And we all want to read the article if you're doing this. Okay, so open a window and go to library.ws.edu. And then you're going to click on Database Index. Okay, and I'm going to do this with you all. Okay, so I'm on the library webpage or home page. Okay, and I'm going to click on Database Index. Now, once you're here, all subjects, and you're going to go to Education. And you have several different ones that you can use. Okay. Okay. we're going to start an ebook academic collection, okay, in a moment. So you can click there and you're going to see what this looks like. If they've changed the format, or they've changed the platform, so it looks very different than it did if you've used this in your composition classes or your literature classes or any class. Okay, so we've come back over here to my screen. Before we search, let's talk about what do we search for, okay, because we're going to all have time to search. So if I'm looking here at motivation, and these are some of the things I want to talk about. I'm looking here and I'm looking at that B, student-directed learning when possible. How can I search for that? Well, I can search for student-directed learning. I can pair it, student-directed learning and motivation. So when I do that, I'm saying, hey, how does student-directed learning affect student motivation? I'm going to get articles that is very specific to that. Or maybe I want to search for, well, okay, how is that going to help them achieve? How's that going to help them learn? So I do student-directed learning and achievement. So you can search general, okay, and that's when you're really exploring. But as you move into what you're wanting to talk about, then you can add those additional terms. Does that make sense? It kind of is going to help pull specific information. Here's the thing. I see a lot of students that just want to search for student motivation. That's great. But when you are adding in your citations, you're adding in your research into your philosophy or in any sort of paper, like this applies to all research papers, you're probably, for the most part, going to be adding it to one of these specific points. Okay, and so when you go into the databases to search, search for a specific point to find specific information about that point. Okay, so here are some formulas that you can also kind of think about. Okay, we said the words by themselves, that motivation, but what are related words? Okay, so student, learning, teaching. Are you talking about elementary students, secondary students? Are you planning on, being a college professor, whatever? So think about the words that are related and that you can help dig down deeper. Okay, so here are some things that you can do, such as the general category, like motivation and progressivism, if you're wanting to find information about that. You can do a detail. So I did collaboration and motivation and learning. Okay. You can also search for a person associated with the theory and pull some of their information if you want, not about them, but about what they say and apply it to your philosophy. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the databases. You have got that pulled up, and now we have some ideas on how to search. Now, in this book database, you are not going to build, you're going to build searches with just a few words, not ones that are like you're not adding tons and tons of fields here, okay? You're probably just going to use 2 or 3 at most, okay? So I'm going to search for collaboration. And this and is telling the database, I want information on collaboration and on motivation and on learning. Because if I don't add that learning in there, or teaching or student, collaboration and motivation could be in any field. That could be business. Okay, this is not an only education book database. It has all fields in it, okay? So make sure you're adding something that is putting it within teaching or learning or school-based stuff, okay? So you all look at one of yours and build a little bit of a search, okay? Go ahead and type those in. You should not have more than 3, though, is what I would really encourage. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Okay, so when you're in the ebook database, you are searching for things in general because books are very comprehensive. Now, if you know anything about how Google searches, it searches for a lot of words on like the web, like a web page. And when you're in our databases that have articles, like those studies, they're searching the whole article. The article might be 10 pages. They can search all of that. But in the ebook collection, they don't search every page of the book. Instead, they're searching like the title and the description. And if the words are not in the title and the description, it's not going to pull up. So a lot of times, students create this really long search for the ebooks and it says there's nothing on it. Instead, you have to search a little more general and then you'll find information on it. That only applies to the ebook collection though. Okay, so I've got my search terms here. I'm just going to hit search. Okay. So I have some examples of books. And so you can kind of see like contemporary perspectives in e-learning. That's great, but I'm not talking about e-learning. Instructional techniques, learning and motivation of serious games. That's not exactly what I want either. Game-based learning. Cool topic, cool concept, but not for my philosophy. Teaching to empower, taking action to foster student agency, self-confidence, and collaboration. I'm like, yes, I think I could maybe use this. Okay, so is everyone, if you will take a moment and just look here what I'm getting ready to do, this is how you're going to search, and I'll let you have a second to kind of make some notes so that you can put down any information that you need to come back to later. Okay, so if you'll come and watch my screen for a second instead of being on your database search, that will be helpful for you to know how to do this. Okay, so you can read through here, tell me what this book is about. If you're like, yes, this is kind of what I want. I tell students to come to access options. I like PDF. You may choose EPUB, but if you click on the title up here, it's going to take you to a different page. Then you have to do this. So this just skips a step if you just click on PDF or EPUB full text right here. So I'm going to go to my book. You do not need to download books in our ebook collection. Okay. So here are the titles. This full book e-download, you don't need to worry about that. So you can go through this whole book. You can use over here, you can use all the table of contents, but that's great. I think it's easiest and most efficient to come over here to this search within. Do you all see that up in the right-hand top corner? It says search within. It's a magnifying glass. So here, I can type in words that I'm looking for. So I'm talking about motivation. I'm talking about intrinsic motivation and let's see, a collaboration, how to build trust with students, all of that. So I'm going to go back. I would go back to this right here. There we go. My motivation thing and say, what do I really want to talk about? Student-directed learning. Ooh, student-directed learning. Okay. So up here, I'm going to search for words that go with student-directed learning. So I might do student-directed learning and see what comes up. Okay, I've got self-directed, which is the same thing, right? So do you see how it highlights where that is in the whole book? So you can click wherever and it takes you to that page. Okay, and one of the things on when I put student-directed learning is that sometimes I'm getting more things just on general learning. Let's see the word choice, like giving students choices when possible. And so you can kind of see all of these. Okay. So this talks about agency and choice. Okay. And you can kind of see all of this information. So I can read through here, get ideas, and also kind of pull things for my philosophy. Okay. If you try, you can try multiple words. You can explore through the whole book. If you like the pages, I'm going to show you how to get the citation and all of that. And this is really important because this interface has changed and it's a little different. So first thing I'm going to do is if I like this page, I am going to I'm going to put the page number down. on my Word document, on a piece of paper, something that tells me what that page is, okay? I might write out the quote that I want to use. Like this one right here is the quote I'm going to use. Motivation in general is grounded in the ability to exercise choice. It's a pretty fundamental statement. I want to include that in some form or fashion in my philosophy. Now, so I'm going to put page 23. You used to be able to save these pages and email them to yourselves, and the database doesn't allow that anymore. I don't know why, but you have to write the page number down. Okay, so I like this. This is a quote I want to use. I'm going to come over here to this Cite button. Okay, and when I click on that, those little quotations, it brings this up. Okay, I'm going to come over here to Style. We are not using the Brazilian National Standards. Okay, sounds cool, but we're going to go to APA. So change it to APA, and then we're going to copy to our clipboard. And that's when you're going to paste it in your Word document, okay? So that's how you're going to get that citation in the database. That's done, that citation, with the exception of the space right here. Do you see how that colon has a space before it? With that, and some of the capitalization of this title, it's pretty much correct. There's just a few errors, okay? But this is a better start than trying to do it, all from scratch. Okay, so let me show you that again. You come up to the Cite button, click on it. You're going to make your style go to APA, and then you can either copy and paste it, or you can copy to the clipboard and paste it. Okay, so let's look. Any questions so far, guys?
Miss Lewis,
Yeah.
I need to leave a little early because I have to head to work.
You leave whenever y'all need to. Yeah, you just head out. Whenever anyone needs to head out, you just head out. Okay?
Okay. I'm
Thank
so
you for
sorry.
coming. No, do not apologize. You're fine. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are here. We've done our search. Okay, and you can kind of see. I'll show you how I'm going through here. I'm sorry, I skipped that was supposed to be one back. So you can kind of see. Here's what I did, and that's in this PowerPoint. I'll send this to your professor. Okay, and so you can kind of see now. How do you find to correct this? How do you know if this is correct or not? Well, I'm going to show you how to know. Thank you for asking. We're going to go over here to our, I'm going to go to OWL Purdue APA. So you're going to go OWL Purdue APA. And has everyone used OWL Purdue APA? If you haven't, it's amazing. And let me show you why. So I go into APA OWL Purdue. I have my quote that I want to use. I need to come up with, you're going to have your in-text citations, and then you're going to have your reference page. This is going to help you do either or, okay? So, and I hate the ads that pop up, so I'm just going to close those every page they come up. So what you're wanting to do is this APA style workshop, this kind of formatting. It's going to show you, whoops, you're going to go to this APA guide. Okay, this tells you all about APA, all the different things about it, but you don't really need that. You need the APA guide. There we go, which I think I was just at. I don't know how I've circled back here. Okay, so you're on the guide, and you're going to come over here to this right here, formatting. There we go. You could have gone there first. You could have gone over here to the APA formatting style guide. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now you're wanting to see, what is this? You're looking for a book, right? And so you click on books, and you can kind of look here. It says, hey, the following is for commonly cited print book. Ebooks are described in our electronic sources. So this is going to guide you, and they look very similar, but this is going to guide you to which source to use. The only thing you need to know when using a formatting guide is what is the source, okay? So then you're going to follow through. Okay, I'm going to go to electronic sources, okay? And it's going to tell you, close that, it's going to tell you how to cite things. Like, ooh, this one right here, how to cite a website, okay? A Wikipedia article, a journal scholar, okay? An online peer, an abstract, okay? And so as you move through here, electronic or Kindle book, okay? And so this right here is the format, okay? And that one right here, since you don't have a narrator, that very first one would be what you would use. So here, I'm looking here, and it says last name, first name, year, or last name, first and middle initial, the year, title of the book. When I go back here to my citation, you can kind of see APA, there are some errors, right? In fact, that looks very much like MLA, which is strange. So you want to make those corrections. Zakarian, comma, D, and Silverstone, comma, M, right? So you're wanting to make it look like, right here, this example in APA. That's all you're doing. To kind of explain it in a different way, think about a math formula and where you put those you put the numbers in, like length times width, right? You are going to, what's the length? Put the length in. What's the width? You put the width in. And the good thing about this is you don't have to solve an equation. You literally just put in the information, okay? Okay, so that is where you would go to double check that, and you would have to change that to make that correct. Does that make sense, guys? And so here is, here is an example, okay? So author, AA, year, publication. And so you can kind of see how I made those corrections from that citation that I got from the database. Is it almost correct? Sure. But making those little things is going to take it a step higher, right? Any questions on that? Now, you all may also, and I'm going to come back over here, you may also be in other databases. So we were in the ebook database, but you may be over here in, let me go over here to, we're in the education. Let me move down here to Eric. You may be in Eric, and you may be doing an article. And I'm going to show you this database. It looks somewhat similar. Okay. So let's say I'm looking for motivation. I want to talk about choice, and I want to talk about student. Here we can add more. We can do learning, right? And so you can add more. You can also, if you want to put student or, you know, other, let's see here. I'm trying to think what would, maybe I didn't choose the best one to try something else. Learning or teaching or education. So you can add terms within these boxes as well. Okay. So as I hit search, okay, you're going to see this was about grandparents going to college. Okay, let's look at our results here. This is exploratory learning, perhaps. You're like, well, this is international on teacher education programs, higher education students. If you start to notice your searches are not going in the correct way that you want them to do, we have to go back up here to our search terms, and let's try different terms. Let's try elementary, right? See how that can kind of change some things. We're not going to have as many things about, you know, maybe our elderly going to college. Okay, and you can kind of see what these look like. Okay. And so as you move into these, let's look at this one right here. Motivational orientations of students with learning disabilities in mathematics. Also, you can use, if you've got a specific subject, language arts, mathematics, science, physical education, you can use those as terms as well. So I'm going to look here. Okay, and this is what this article, if you're not familiar with how to do the research, here's your author. If there are multiple authors, like there are 11 of them, the one who's first did most of the research. This tells you the journal and the year. So 2024, it's very recent. Here is that abstract we were talking about. Okay, you cannot cite from this. What this does is it tells you what the article is about, and there's like no secrets. It tells you exactly what the results came to be. But we don't want to cite that. You want to actually go into the article, and I'm going to click here, full text from Eric, and go over to where that article is. Now, this database takes you on a little stepping stone. So it takes you here. You do have to come over here to download the full text, and it's just going to open it. Okay, so here is the article. Okay, and if you are incorporating this into your philosophy, here's how I would tell you where to go. First, you always want to read the abstract. That gives you a framework for what this article is about. Next, you're going to skim the introduction, gives you a little bit more of a framework. Now, we're going to kind of go through here and skip until we see the term discussion. Or kind of result like conclusions, things like that. Okay, oh, there it is, discussion. Now, if you've not read a lot of academic journal articles, the discussion is where they take all of the information from the study and they put it down in the most readable format, and they're discussing why is it important and why is it important for the field. Okay, and this is where most students find their quotes. Okay. So you can kind of look through here, and it might give you some really good discussion points that you can talk about. You can also find some good quotes in the conclusion. Okay, so that's where you're going to say, like, for example, limitations posed by disabilities may hinder their efforts. It's difficult to generalize all students with the same characteristics and motivation, but blah, 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 right? So you can pull information from the discussion and the conclusion because it's more of a summary, okay? So if I like this article, let me come up here. How am I going to get where do I get my citation, right? So if I go back, oh man, let's see if I can move this out of the way. Okay, if I go back over here to this Eric one, okay, I do not see a citation, so I'm going to go back here. Okay, so to get my citation here, I'm going to actually have to click into the article part right here. Okay, and then your citation is up here. Eric is kind of wonky because Eric is actually it's more of an index. And so let me click there, and it looks like the same thing. But Eric is an index, and we're pulling it into our platform, but Eric is really available to any educator, and it's online, and it shows all the articles, even if they're not full text. They pull that index into our databases and pair it with full text articles, which is why you're going everywhere around the internet to find this article. So let me recap what I just did so that you are not confused, right? You can click into an article, or you can access it now. When you go to the access, full text from Eric, it's taking you out, okay? You're going to download the text. That's where you can read it and read that article. To get the citation, you have to come back to the database, okay? And get the citation right here, okay? So on that like brief description, you can go here, and it's going to take you out to Eric as well. I'm sorry that if that's confusing, it's just a kind of a strange database how they formatted that. Okay, so let's look at our article and the citation of our article here. Again, we're going to scroll down to APA. Now, is this correct? I don't know. So I'm going to go over to Al Purdue. Okay, Al Purdue APA, and here I am again. back in APA, and we're going to go to our formatting and style guide. And that is an academic journal article. Okay, so I'm going to look through here, articles and periodicals, electronic sources. Okay, I'm going to say this was found online. I don't even know who's using real print periodicals anymore, but maybe they are. Let's see if it's in here. Okay, so I'm scroll down. There's a Wikipedia online scholarly article. Okay. So you can kind of look right here, and this is my format, right? Last name, the same, the initials, the title of the article. And as you notice, look, that title of the article, it's not in italics. Only the first word of the title is capitalized. If there's a colon after it, so it said like title of article, colon, subtitle, you do capitalize the first word of the subtitle. Okay, but I don't know why they do this, but it's just their favorite thing to do. Then you have the title of the periodical that is italicized, and that's in normal capitalization. Okay, and then you have your volume and issue and page numbers. You do have a DOI. So if there is a DOI you can see here's a DOI. Here's the DOIs on the article right there. And it's also, let me come back to this part. Sometimes it may be on this page as well. A lot of times they include it in that, in the citation maker. If you don't have a DOI, it's okay. If there is one and you can readily include it, sure, that's good too. It's not, as long as you get most of that, you get the rest of the important information. Then if you can find the DOI, great. If you can't, then don't worry about it. Some don't have DOIs, okay? Okay. Now that's a lot of information. Let me come back over here to my PowerPoint to make sure I've not missed anything while I have been going on. So we've got, that's how to get your citation. That's how to go into an article and find an article, okay? Now, the next thing then the very last thing we're going to do, I have 2 more slides, is developing that in-text citation. So you can't just take that quote and drop it into your paper that you find, whatever quote, whether it's from an article discussion or whether it's from a book. Now, I'm going to use this quote from the book. This is from that book that we talked about, that Empowering Students book that I pulled up on my first search. And this is the quote I want to include. Motivation in general is often grounded in the ability to exercise choice. Okay, so up here, this is my writing. Students can develop intrinsic motivation with appropriate learning experiences. Having the ability to choose learning experiences when possible naturally increases motivation. Okay, so I want to include that. So that is coming. Do you see how what I did is this? I paraphrased this. Do you all know what paraphrasing is? Paraphrasing is when you take a quote, you put it into your own words, right? And that's kind of like, it kind of is, it's talking about it's taking the quote and putting it in its own words and in its own format. Okay. And so when I'm wanting to paraphrase this, there I have to, so I paraphrased it the yellow, I have to put a citation after it. The in-text citation, here is the format. You can paraphrase whatever quote you're going to do, and then you're going to put the citation after it. Okay, so, and here's the format. If it's only one author, it's last name, comma, year. If it's 2, it's last and the ampersand sign. If there's multiple authors, there are more than 2, then you put last name et al, that period, comma, and the year. And you put the period after it. I did not put that period after it. There should be a period afterwards. That's your first way to do that. Your second way to do it is to kind of introduce by the author. If you are really familiar with MLA and comfortable with MLA, this students like to do it this way if you love MLA from your English classes. So I would say like Zakarian and Silverstone 2020, and then you kind of do a little bit of an intro. Note that, and having the ability to choose learning experiences increases motivation. Okay, so you're taking a quote, you're putting it into your own words. You must put either the in-text citation after that, or you can do it as kind of like more of an author year, and then a little bit of a says that, notes that, demonstrates, things like that. Does that make sense? Now, what about direct quotes? If you did MLA, you love a direct quote, is my guess. English classes value direct quotes because when you're quoting something like literature, a direct quote, you don't paraphrase Shakespeare, right? We don't paraphrase major poets. So that's why there's not as much paraphrase. When you're in APA, that's a science-based field, right? Psychology, you want to paraphrase because it gets really cumbersome to read quote after quote. So work on your paraphrasing. Okay, so here's an example. And we'll do this and then we will be almost done. So I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to see if you can paraphrase this. And if we're in class, we'd have done this in groups. In addition, we encourage and empower students when our language avoids evaluative words. Let's just do this first part all the way. This is first part of the sentence. Okay, how could you paraphrase that? Just type out something, and we'll share. How could you put that in your own words and in your own structure? You can't just replace only words.
Y'all can either say it out or put it in the chat, whichever one you want.
Yeah. You put in the chat if you want. In about 30 seconds, I'll just ask for any volunteers who might want to read theirs. Or if you go ahead and put it in the chat, that'd be fantastic as well.
I would say we could, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say we could say something like, we encourage students, we encourage students to make slow and steady progress rather than, like constant feeling of having to set a goal. Maybe that's kind of a weird way to word it, but
Okay. Like, so you're thinking you're like using this statement to paraphrase that.
that's what
You're
I would say. Because
okay.
where it says like we don't use words like never, always, or have
Yes.
to, we could say we encourage students to make progress in their own time, like
Oh, yeah.
eventually or next time or maybe in a
Yeah.
week or so, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So you're encouraging, and you can even in that way, because you did kind of change the format. You did use the word encourage, which that was the only real word that you used. You could also maybe look for a synonym. We promote, or we motivate students by blah, blah, blah. Like, so you could even change a little bit of that. Yeah. Anyone else want to share kind of what you came up with on how to maybe paraphrase this a little bit.
That was good, Caleb. Thanks for sharing that.
And it could be something like, or teachers avoid words that I'm looking here, like I'm focusing on that permanent judgment. Avoid words with permanent denotations or definitions, or words that have permanent or maybe connotations, which would be a little more, let's see, such as never. Yeah. So maybe like when teachers avoid using words that are more permanent in nature rather than giving students agency by allowing them to have more, or by allowing them with more encouraging phrases. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways you could go. Really, when you're paraphrasing, it can be very frustrating. Even then, like it's just like off the cuff. You're going to write it down and then be like, oh, I should change this, I should change that. And it takes a little bit longer than a direct quote, which is why students avoid it, right? Because it really is you having to stop and like kind of finagle the language a bit. So, and if language is not your strong suit, like maybe you want to be, maybe you don't want to teach language arts, and you're like, this seems very like a language arts activity. It is a very language arts activity. So it can be a struggle. The thing is that when you're putting it to a paraphrase, it will flow so much better than if you're trying to stick in a direct quote. And usually in education, paraphrases are used in most cases, unless something is worded in such a way that by trying to paraphrase it, you take away the meaning. Okay, that's when you directly quote in most social sciences, including education. Okay, so that paraphrase is important. And I just want to pull back to this and that in-text citation. So making sure that you use one of these formats, okay, and then you're doing your paraphrase. Okay. Now this right here, the Sakarian and Silverstone, that directly correlates with that reference page and that long citation that you copied and pasted and corrected off of the citation off the database. Or if you had to go to APA OWL Purdue and kind of create one yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, guys. So I appreciate you all listening and participating. I know that sometimes having someone come in and teach you the steps on doing all the research, that can be tedious. So I hope that being able to watch me go through that was helpful. If you need help, if you are looking for certain things, you can't find it, please reach out to me. I am on your class list, I think. If I'm not on your class list, I will get myself on your class list.
I haven't noticed you on there, so I don't think
I am.
I don't think you are, but you're welcome to do that and my Monday night class, join my Monday night class as well, because you'll be there Monday night with them.
Yes. So, class list, or you can just email me from like your senator's mail. Please tell me that you're in this class. That way I know like whose class you're in. I know the assignment gives me a framework, and what you need help with. Please don't say, I need help with my philosophy. Can you help me? Yes, I can. What do you need help with? Like, give me some specifics. I can't find anything on classroom discipline and management. I really want to discuss blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that just helps me help you much more efficiently than otherwise. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. Any questions?
I had a question on the paraphrasing. If it's a
Yeah.
really, really short quote, like 5 or 6 words or something like that, do you still have to paraphrase it? Because I feel like that would kind of be hard to do.
Well, here's the thing. Make sure the quote you're using is very unique and insightful, right? It's not a general statement. If you are, I would paraphrase it if possible. If you absolutely can't paraphrase it, like I said, if it's stated in such a way that it's so important how it's worded, it would take away the meaning. That would be a direct quote. But paraphrasing tends to be more useful in a philosophy because think of who's going to be reading your philosophy, a principal, right? They're not wanting to go through all these quotes and stuff. They just want a quick paraphrase of what it is. But yeah, if you absolutely have to, you absolutely have to. Good question. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys for your time, especially
Thanks.
on a snowy
Thanks,
day.
I know I debated on doing this or not, but we just didn't, we have so much going on, so thank you so much for taking your snow day too.
Oh, you all are welcome. Okay. I love working with future teachers. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know
This is
you
what y'all
do.
are doing. Okay. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to leave the meeting and you all can finish doing whatever you need to do.